All right, a big international story tonight. The world focusing on Times Square in New York, which is always a flurry of activity, huge congestion. And tonight, tonight our time, about midday New York time, a driver ramming into pedestrians, one killed. We heard up to 20 wounded. We spoke to Bryce-pease. He was at the scene earlier and he joins us on the line from New York once more. Sherwin, we didn't know much about the driver a little bit earlier. Reports he was drunk. What can you tell us now?
Well, we know a little bit more now. The officials from the New York Police Department and the mayor of New York, Bill de Blasio, gave a press conference a short time ago where they said there was no indication, Francis, at this point to indicate anything related to terrorism. Eyewitness reports suggest that this driver, who's been identified as a military veteran, a 26-year-old Richard Royas from the Bronx, of course, one of the boroughs here in New York City, drove against traffic in Times Square. I mean, this is a hustling and bustling area where you're talking about vehicle traffic, Francis, or you're talking about pedestrian traffic. This man supposedly driving against traffic, then mounting the sidewalk, and his car ending up mounted up against a security ballard. They had these ballards positioned outside infrastructure, important buildings, federal buildings around the city, so that, cars that are trying to sort of ram buildings or pedestrians are stopped. And this is precisely what the security ballard managed to do. The vehicle, a Honda Ballard, literally on two wheels up against this ballard. The driver, Francis, has been arrested. He appeared to be drunk at the scene, and of course those toxicology tests and reports to confirm suspicions at the scene that this man was driving under the influence of alcohol.
Sherwin, we're seeing visuals of some of those wounded. What do we know about the woman who was killed and the condition of those who were wounded right now?
Well, we don't know her identity. All we know is that the person who is deceased is a female, some 23. I mean, we get varying reports. Earlier reports said 19 people had been injured. I'm now seeing reports that up to 23 people have been injured. 4 are apparently in a critical condition. 8 were removed from the scene on stretcher. And clearly, police will be wanting to engage many of those injured, many of those eyewitness accounts, so as to get a clear indication of exactly how this played itself out. But I think the critical point here, when everyone wants to talk about situations like this in cities in the United States, particularly New York, the first question is, was this a terrorist attack, or certainly an attempt at terrorism? What we can say now, Francis, is that according to the NYPD and confirmed by the mayor a short time ago, this was unlikely a terrorist attack. But at the scene still now, they've cleared the scene. Times Square is, I wouldn't say it's a ghost town, but there's certainly blocks upon blocks where no one is allowed to walk. Buildings have been shut down, have been closed off. Businesses that operate in the area are closed, and they're all waiting right now for the NYPD to clear the vehicle to ensure that there are no explosives or anything of the like in the vehicle, so as to allow normal traffic and normal activity in that area to resume.
Sherwin, in finality, please remind us what the scene would be like at midday at Times Square. We were talking about the incredible bustle earlier, and like Peter was saying, it's even possible that South Africans witnessed this. They're people from all over the world.
Very much so. I mean, that's an excellent point. People from around the world gather in Times Square, whether it's to see its bright lights in the evening or just during the day. It's one of the main tourist attractions in New York City. And add to that the fact that we're in the midst of a heat wave, the first summer heat wave in New York City. It's over 30 degrees today. It's glorious out there. Driving in there, I was telling my cameraman, Aaron Berger, one gets the sense of 9/11, in 2001. It was also a bright, clear, sunny day in New York City that day. But fortunately, the good news here is that this was not a terrorist attack, just someone driving up the wrong way, Francis.
All right, thank you very much. Bryce-pease, live from New York.